It's gonna be that one right there. And I'm gonna click on this right here. I'm gonna do that. Okay. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. Let me get this going up here too. All right, there we go. All right. Thank you everyone for coming to this meeting of the United Dairy Families of California. It's been a little while since we have done anything, in terms of public meeting, and certainly if we were not in a COVID situation right now, we would have probably by now been having more public meetings just as a way to stay informed and to communicate. But we're now in sort of a Zoom world, so we have this opportunity to kind of just be here and offer you guys an opportunity to ask us questions. Get everyone up to date. Sort of the driver of this meeting today is the fact that there are these public hearings, or the public hearing for the Dairy Families petition happening this week. And we wanted to be able to kind of get people on the same page and caught up to date with a lot of things going on around quota, so that as we go into this meeting on Wednesday, that people are, kind of informed of what's current. So with that in mind, I'm going to, if you guys could, I know that a lot of you still have your cameras off, but I'm trying to get a sense of how many people participated in the Dairy Families process, came to the meetings, our phase 1, 2, and 3 meetings. So if you could either raise your hand, your digital hand, I don't know if you know how to do, if you know how to do the digital hand thing. Corinne, can you show an example of how to do that? There's
Yeah.
Okay, I got one raised hand. Just sort of raise your hand.
More.
There you go. Gail's
Right
got
up there.
No, not there. You press raise hand.
Oh, yeah.
All right, there. I got some thumbs up. I got some hands raised. I got people connecting to audio. All right, there we go. So I've got really 2 out of the people here with the raised hand. So, and there are people on this list that I know are at the meetings. So, and there's a couple people who've called in who I don't know who they are. And we'll just assume that they don't know. So we'll go ahead and proceed through some of that. Okay. So here's the agenda for today real quick. All right. We're going to welcome people. And as you see, I am not Corinne, but we're going to just keep on going, reviewing the Dairy Families process. Then Corinne's going to talk about sort of what's going on with a lot of the stop quip, the lawsuits and the follow-up to the Chapter 3.5 hearing. We're going to talk about the upcoming hearing this week and how you can participate and just help people if you need help figuring out how to log on to that virtual meeting. Then Q&A, and then we'll talk about possibilities of contribution to dairy families. But even though we have a Q&A set up on the agenda, if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to unmute yourself and ask me. Raise your hand if you want to. You can put your hands down now if you raised them before. Mike Valadeo and Leah, thank you very much. Okay, so if you have a question or you want to talk, if you want to say anything, just do it. Like, this is kind of meant to be more of a conversation than me just talking at you. So feel free to participate. Okay, so the United Dairy Families, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, back in January of 2019, United Dairy Families and some groups of guys started coming together talking about quota and what does the future of quota look like. We formed this organization. We came up with a plan, this 5-phase plan for finding a middle ground or determining what to do about quota. And we are here today, and we are in phase 5. We have made it through the first 4 phases. You know, phase 1 was what we called the think tank, where everybody presented. I'll go ahead and go into that. I'll talk more about the details later, but I do want to talk a little bit about, you know, phase 1, 2, and 3, where we you know, and you together came up with the plan for the sunset. That as many of you know because you were there, Dr. Maren Bozic and Matt Gould are these dairy economists and analysts who facilitated the process, did all the economic analysis and the research behind all of the work that we did. They pretty much managed phase 1, 2, and 3. They did it in conjunction with and support of the cooperatives, and Stop Quip were a part of the process. We also had, you know, sort of administrative support from the 3 trade organizations, and you know, they helped a lot in terms of like technical support and helping the economists understand the rules, and they helped communicate to the industry what was going on in our industry. So I just want to start by thanking you know, the co-ops, Stop Quip, who participated in the process with us, and the trade organizations for getting us through phase 1, 2, and 3, right? And so bringing back to like why was the Dairy Families organization formed, and what was our purpose? You know, our underlying mission is based around unity of the dairy industry. It's about taking our differences around quota, coming together to solve the problems that currently face the dairy industry and are going to face the dairy industry in the future. You know, and while we, you know, have used this slide, it shows some of the challenges that face the dairy industry. This was all sort of pre-COVID slide. You know, and now in sort of a post-COVID world, we have even greater challenges with milk supply and pricing, and you know, and even in the face of like the worst economic situation that the country has faced, and California being on fire and everything else happening in California, our governor continues passing laws and regulations that, you know, are total utopian concepts, like, you know, you know, banning the internal combustion engine in California, things like this issue about sex offenders, and you know, there's just so many things that California is doing that I would say are completely insane. The idea of the legislature in California working for the dairy industry in any way is just like out the window now, right? I mean, if we haven't learned by now that we have bigger problems than each other in the dairy business, then you know, we've got a really big problem, right? Because we've definitely got problems. So we believe that unifying the dairy industry is necessary to survive the environment that we live in as California business owners. Okay, so that's why we're doing it. We went through these first 3 phases. In the think tank phase, there was essentially an opportunity for every dairy producer to show up and provide ideas with a clean slate. We handed out note cards. Maren and Matt collected 1,200 note cards based on, you know, questions that were asked around what people might want to do. People were free to write anything they wanted, just come up with blue ocean strategies for what to do about quota. They took those 1,200 cards and distilled them into 11 different proposals and 52 pages of analysis. Okay, they came back to another meeting with that analysis and those 11 proposals and implemented surveys asking people what their preferences were about each of those 11 proposals. And then in the third meeting, they narrowed those 11 proposals down to 3. Again, there were surveys that included about, you know, just under 3% of the milk supply in California was represented across all, you know, people with 100% quota, with 0% quota, and everything in between, and came up with one central idea. And the three ideas that came out of the process were tying quota to class 1 sales, a sunset, and a buyout, which essentially would have been like a sunset with the money up front, and then you have the sunset, which is like a buyout with the money over time. Okay. When asked their preferences between these three final solutions, whether or not it was acceptable and whether or not one of these proposals would achieve a consensus or a supermajority vote. This was, I'm sorry, but the slide got cut off. This first one is tying quota to class 1. This is the sunset. Sorry. This is tying to class 1. This is a buyout, and this is the sunset. Okay. So after all the work that we did over 3 meetings and hours and hours and hours of sitting in these meetings, when you look at it from a grade A milk perspective, 88% of the milk that was represented at this meeting indicated that they could support the sunset, and 79% when it comes down to just number of producers. Okay, 80% of the producers that showed up said they would support a sunset. 88% said they, of the milk represented would support a sunset. So this is why the sunset came out of this concept. Then there was a question asked, how long of a sunset should it be? They asked the question from 3 years to 7 years, and the median answer, the average of all of the responses came out to 5.25 years. So 5 years, 25 days, I guess it is, not 5.25 years. But this survey was done in January of last year. I guess it was in January of last year, and we anyway. So from that point, right, the 5-year sunset, the March 2025 date would be right about that 5-year sunset. So this is how we came about the numbers based on responses, and this just shows you that same bit of data, but based on how much quota that you own, right? So if this is a pretty confusing graph, I don't know, can you guys see my mouse? Can you see my mouse move, Corinne, move up and down? Okay, so
yes.
This dark green line is people with a lot of quota, and this red line is people with no quota, and these other lines are sort of in between. But what they basically indicate here is that obviously people with a lot of quota would rather see a longer sunset, and people with no quota would rather see a shorter sunset. But when you put them all together, where they cross over is pretty much right here in that 5-year. This box reflects sort of what that median is. So it's right in that 5-year range. So that's how we came up with that. And then there was this additional component to equalize RQAs. And Maren can do a better job of explaining, the methodology behind this, but essentially, equalizing RQAs was one of the concepts that came out of the 11 proposals. And when we entered into this thing, we had said that it would be possible that we would combine proposals depending on how it showed up. And so they asked the question, of whether producers would prefer to continue with RQAs at their same level or to equalize RQAs, and the preference for equalizing RQAs was pretty strong. I mean, better than 50% more, support for equalizing RQAs versus keeping them the same. So that is why the proposal includes equalizing RQAs. And this is essentially what's in the language of our petition, which is simply stated, it equalizes RQAs, all counties to match whatever Tulare County is. So that, all counties equal to the lowest RQA number. And then it says the plan will remain in effect until March 1st, 2025. at which point the program ends, which is the sunset component. So that is basically, in a very, very short nutshell, how we got to the sunset, what is in the petition, and where we are, okay? And there are, so that takes us through phase 1, 2, and 3 of our process. Phase 4 was the signing of the petitions, which we called the consensus stage, which was getting signatures on petitions. We collected the signatures, we turned them in. The department qualified the signatures, and our petition triggered a process. In that process, we have so far had a PRB meeting. The PRB asked the department to refer the question of our petition to a judge. In the same way that Stop Quip's Chapter 3.5 petition was heard. The department, chose to do that. So coming up this week on Wednesday at 9 a.m., we're going to have a hearing in the same manner that the Chapter 3.5 hearing went down with the same judge. So Judge Timothy Espinwell is going to be the judge. So he's already pretty familiar with how all this works, and so our expectation is that this will probably be a little bit of a simpler hearing than the last one, because the 3.5 hearing was a little bit outside the scope of termination, which is exactly what was determined by the judge, that Chapter 3.5 was not intended for terminating quota. And that it would have to go through a Chapter 3 referendum. Well, that's exactly where we are right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and ask Corinne to talk about more about like where we're at with the Chapter 3.5 and Stop Quip's lawsuits and other things. But before I do, why don't I take a minute to pause here and answer any questions anybody might have about the process and how we got to where we are right now. So does anybody have a question about what I've just covered?
No
Okay.
question. You did a good job, Dino.
I'm sorry?
I said, no question. You did a good job.
Well, thank you. Well, anyway, thanks a lot. So with that being said, I will invite Corinne then to take over, and I'm gonna go ahead and advance your slides for you, Corinne, and you can do it. Tell me when to go.
Sure. Thanks, Dino. But before I get started, I posted this in the chat box, but I'll just announce this again. You can also ask questions in the chat box if you don't want to unmute yourself, or if that's easier, whatever. So feel free to do that at any time. We're happy to stop and, again, make this a conversation and less of like a presentation. So other actions being taken, like Dino alluded to just now. Obviously, Dairy Families is not the only group participating in actions related to quota. There's the Stop QIP, Stop Quip group, and then there's also a new group that has come about recently, Save Quip. They're generally they have a lot of quota. Stop Quip are people that don't own any quota, or they have very little quota. But so far, Stop Quip is the only other group that has been taking certain actions to amend or specifically terminate the quip, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. So like Dino said, earlier this year, Stop Quip filed a petition. The goal of that petition was to immediately terminate quota, and they wanted to do so under Chapter 3.5 of the Food and Ag Code, which, as we explained previously this year, had a lower voting threshold than what Chapter 3.0 of the Food and Ag Code requires. And so obviously that went forward to a hearing with an administrative law judge. And like Dino said, the judge denied the petition, claiming that it was legally defective. So their hearing was held at the beginning of June. It was over Microsoft Teams. And I'm sure a lot of you guys tuned into that that hearing. And like 6 weeks later, I think it was, on July 24th, that's when the ALJ issued his decision. And then shortly afterwards, on August 14th, Secretary Ross formally adopted the ALJ's order, making it the decision of CDFA that the stop quit petition should not move forward to a referendum. But since August 14th, Stop Quip has filed a petition for a writ of mandate. So basically, they're looking to overturn the decision. It's sort of like appealing the secretary's decision, but that's just the fancy way of saying that's the proper course of procedure that they have to go through. So we're still waiting to hear what will happen with that action. And then simultaneously to their petition, Stop Quip had also filed a lawsuit. So Dino, you can put the PowerPoint forward one more. Thank you. So yes, so again, earlier this year, I think they filed a lawsuit in January. Stop Quip had filed a lawsuit against CDFA claiming that they were implementing the quip illegally. The original hearing date was scheduled for earlier this spring, but obviously COVID disrupted those plans and pushed everything back. So the hearing wasn't held until the end of July. Again, it was held virtually. And the judge for that hearing issued his decision pretty quickly. He turned around on August 3rd. Oh no, I'm getting in. My internet is unstable. Am I cutting out, Dino?
Yeah, you were breaking up there for a minute. If you could go back about 15 seconds. That
Okay.
would be helpful.
Okay, so but still within the lawsuit topic?
Yeah.
Okay, so earlier this year, I think it was in January, Stop Quip filed a lawsuit against CDFA claiming that they were implementing the quip illegally. The original hearing was supposed to be scheduled for the spring, but COVID disrupted all of those plans, obviously. So the hearing wasn't held until July 31st, virtually, again, like everything is nowadays. And then the judge for that hearing turned around and issued his decision pretty quickly on the 3rd in favor of CDFA. So basically saying that CDFA still had the authority to, or still has the authority to implement the quip. The basis of the lawsuit went back to the federal milk marketing order, and when everything was voted on and implemented, Stop Quip was trying to claim that CDFA should have held a separate hearing and a separate referendum for the quip in addition to the federal milk marketing order vote. But the judge said, basically agreed with CDFA's arguments that they were kind of one in the same, and it was okay that they went through at the same time. However, Stop Quip still has time to appeal the judge's decision. I think that deadline, it's October. I'm not exactly too sure of the date. Do you know, Dino? It's like the 18th.
No, I don't know.
Okay, well, they still have time to appeal that judge's decision. So we will see what happens there. So that's a really long way of saying that there's basically 3 major actions that are being taken right now about the quip. The first 2 was the Stop Quip petition under Chapter 3.5. The second one was the Stop Quip lawsuit, which we just went over. And then the third one is the dairy families petition to sunset the quip in 5 years. So basically, Stop Quip, I would say those actions are on their way out the door. They still do have some options, some wiggle room to work with. But for the most part, the petition that we are putting forward under Chapter 3.0 is going to be the next decision coming up, at least in the immediate future. And the next step in the process, like Dino said earlier, is the hearing that we have coming up on Wednesday. So I think the next slide is about that, right, Dino?
Yeah. Let me add something to what you're
Sure.
saying there. Going back to Chapter 3.5 and the appeal. So it's important to know that that when the Chapter 3.5 hearing happened, that was an administrative action. So the judge was representing the administration, and it was an administrative hearing. There is no appeal process inside of the administrative hearing process. And so as an appeal, what the stop equip attorneys are doing is that they are filing a lawsuit in the court. So it's moving it to a different venue, right? So it's not going to be heard by the same judge. It doesn't go back to that situation. It's a completely new lawsuit that is essentially asking the courts to overturn the decision of the administration. Okay, that is what this writ of mandate is intended to do. So we don't really know what the outcome of that's going to be. And I don't know, I think there has been a hearing date set, but I don't know what it is. I apologize that I'm not here with all the good details of the dates, but I know it's not going to happen, before our process goes into effect with our hearing happening this week. So anyway, all right. Any questions about lawsuits or Chapter 3.5 or any of these previous sort of legal stuff? Any questions in that area we might be able to answer?
So Dino, this week is starting the process of whether the sunset is going to get accepted by CDFA?
Well, okay, that's an interesting question, right? Because our petition has already been qualified, so it has been accepted, right, as a petition, and now there's a process that it needs to go through, and so one of the steps in the process is a hearing about the petition. And so this hearing is an opportunity for people to, weigh in their opinion about our petition. It's mostly, I would say, a technical hearing. It's about, does this petition meet the standard of a petition? Does it ask for something that's possible within the frame of what the administration can do? Did we follow the proper procedures and regulations to get this petition moved forward? But our understanding is that, regardless of the outcome of this hearing, unless there's something that, some glaring hole in this thing that the judge decides to recommend not to take it to a referendum, our understanding is that there is going to be a referendum on this petition. But that this hearing is sort of a necessary step in the process of getting it to a ballot. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
And just like everything in dairy, and particularly in quota, it's never as simple as it seems, right? There's always some, thing that makes it complicated, right? It's everything that happens in dairy is complicated for no good reason, from what I can tell.
And it is 2020, so we don't want to make any assumptions about anything.
Any other questions about the previous, lawsuits or the previous hearing that anybody has before we move on to the new hearing? I think we have a screen full of well-informed people that already know what's going on, so we're good. All right, so Corinne, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess if everybody is caught up to speed, then hopefully you should be well aware that we have a hearing on Wednesday. So again, like what Dino just explained, this is the next step in the process, being reviewed by the administrative law judge, which is the same judge that presided over the hearing at the beginning of June for Stop Quip's petition. So our hearing is this. Oh, yes, Dino?
I neglected to say something that I think is important to say in answering Brian's question, okay? the administrative law judge hearing was not initially part of the petition to referendum process that was outlined by the department when the PRB created this process. In our petition, in the dairy families petition, we specifically asked for a public hearing in addition to or other than a meeting of the PRB, because we felt that that it was an undue burden to the PRB members to be the ones that had to make the recommendation to the secretary if there was anything, about this petition that was, a problem, as well as ultimately, one way or the other, everybody on the PRB is potentially conflicted on this issue because everybody owns or doesn't own quota, right? And so from the perspective of impartiality, we felt there was a benefit to bringing in an impartial third party to review our petition on the way to a referendum. So that is why that is one of the reasons why there's a judge involved in this, because we asked for it in our petition. Okay, that's it. Go ahead, Corinne.
Again, nothing is simple in the land of dairy and quota. So so our hearing is this Wednesday and Thursday, starts at 9 a.m. Both days it will be streamed via Microsoft Teams, not Zoom. We have the link to the Microsoft Teams posted on our website, and we will send out an email blast, again, probably early Wednesday morning or late Tuesday night with that link so you can access it easily. And the hearing is open for producers to testify. So if you want to, you're more than welcome to. You can either testify live during the hearing, or you can submit a written testimony beforehand. If you would like to participate during the live hearing, you just have to pre-register with CDFA by emailing that link on the screen by Tuesday at 4 o'clock, so tomorrow by 4 p.m. If you want to submit a written testimony, it is due Wednesday morning. But if you miss the pre-registration deadline to participate live, it is our understanding that the judge will allow for more public comment after the folks that have pre-registered have already spoken. So it's not the end all be all. You still can have an opportunity. We do have a template to help you guys formulate your thoughts and spark some ideas. So if you are interested in that, you can find it on our website, or you just can reach out to me and I'm happy to send it to you. There's the link to the Microsoft Teams. Again, we'll send that out, or if you want to call in, there's the call-in number with the passcode. And just a friendly reminder for Zoom/Microsoft Teams etiquette to mute your microphone if you aren't speaking, and or turn off your video camera if you don't want to be seen. If you participated in the hearing in June, I'm sure you remember that it was a little messy, so everybody can do their part in trying to make it as smooth as possible so that the judge can hear everybody from what everybody wants to say. So, and I think with that, it's back to you, Dino.
You are going to put all of this this link information on the homepage at dairyfamilies.org, right?
Yes. It's already there, but I'll make it bigger and bolder.
Okay. So anyway, on Wednesday at 9, if you want to get on to the meeting and you don't know where else to go to connect to it, just go to dairyfamilies.org and you should be able to click a button right there on the homepage and take you right to the meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And if you're going to be on the call, we recommend that you wear a shirt.
Preferably.
All right. So we are now into general Q&A. Are there any questions about any of all that we have been discussing so far? If anybody want to talk about anything, you can just unmute, turn your camera on. Just we're here for a conversation. If anybody wants to be in one, if you think we're a bunch of jerks, turn on your mic and tell us. Crickets. Should be a Zoom crickets button. You push in, it just starts making cricket sounds. All right. Well, if you have any questions, if you have any questions or comments, or you want to talk to either Corinne or myself, you can contact us by, the website. Our phone numbers are on there, emails on there. You can get a hold of us both of us at dairyfamilies.org pretty easily. So always willing and able to talk to people if you want. The last thing that we would like to share with you is that throughout all this process, this is a volunteer organization. It's been we've been at this thing for 18 months, something like that now. I mean, it's been a lot of effort, and we've had some pretty complicated legal battles, and going back to, why is Dairy Families doing what we're doing? This organization was started to try to bring unity to the industry and try to come to some consensus about what to do with quota and solve quota as a dividing issue for the dairy industry, and move forward together on these difficult issues that we all face. So to whatever degree you are willing and able to support the Dairy Families mission, we appreciate it. We've been asking people to contribute $2 a cow. Some people have done that. Some people, do more or less, however you like to do it. But you can make a contribution if you like to us directly at dairyfamilies.org. You can pay with a credit card, or you can just mail us a check to the address that's on the screen, or the same address on the bottom of our website. So, we appreciate you guys participating and coming to the meeting today. We hope that, we hope that we're presenting information that's useful to you, that's getting you up to date. We hope that you're going to participate in the hearing on Wednesday. And or Thursday, if it goes Thursday. I wouldn't expect it's probably going to go much into Thursday. So if you're interested in being heard and participating, I would definitely get on Wednesday as early as you can. And that's about it for me. Corinne, any other thing you think we need to say?
I think that's all. Maybe one last opportunity for questions.
Anything anybody else wants to say? If you want to say anything, say it. This is the time to do it. Well, that's no fun. Normally people argue with us, and it's no fun when we're just, Ray Proc, argue with us. Come on, buddy. Unmute your mic and give us something to.
What do you want me to argue with you about?
I don't know, something. I mean, it just doesn't feel right to be in a Dairy Families meeting and nobody's arguing with me. It's just something I feel incomplete.
I don't know how to complete you. I mean, that's.
Oh man, okay. I guess that's an ongoing problem.
I want to talk to the mayor about that.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, hey, thank you everybody for coming, and you know all the ways to get a hold of us. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dino.